Hi guys, Andy here. Just a quick intro into a really cool podcast chat that I had last night. And it's just an introduction into that video with the very chilled out, cigar smoking, tequila drinking, stacker of gold and silver, all the way from Cyprus. And that can only be C.Y. Sterling. Brilliant conversation. Enjoy it. What are you drinking?
I'm just gonna have a little tequila with energy drink, kind of like tequila Red Bull.
Very nice. And are you going to smoke that cigar?
So
Are you going to smoke that cigar as well?
yeah,
Great stuff. Dude, officially welcome to the podcast. It's been a long time coming. I've been really looking forward to just sitting down having a chat with you at some point, and now we finally do it. So welcome, mate.
thanks very much for having me. Like you said, it's been a long time in the uh, planning process, but we're finally here. So
Absolutely. Cool. Right. Okay. I have Mr. C.Y. Sterling with us. And I'm going to ask you a question, dude. Can you tell us a little bit about how we all got to know C.Y. Sterling? How did you end up as the C.Y. Sterling that we see on YouTube, obviously hear about on the Discord channel, on Stacker Social? How did this all come about for you, mate? What was the
um,
journey? What was the beginning of this journey? What's Tell us a little bit about yourself.
the beginning of this journey, I mean, I've only been doing, I've I've been stacking and collecting for a couple of years now, and it's something that I just found completely by accident. Um, I was just watching some YouTube videos, just general things, and then I happened on a video by Silver Dragons,
Okay.
and he was talking about like silver and saving in silver and stuff like that. And I thought, that sounds quite interesting. And then I thought, okay, let me just watch another video, and two videos turned into three, turned into four. And before I knew it, I was looking up other kind of like, stacking and silver related videos.
Okay.
Um, it was all mainly US based. So I thought, yeah, it doesn't really apply, to Europe and UK as much as, you know, all the US videos that I was watching. So I started looking up silver stacking UK,
Okay.
and I found backyard bullion and 365 days of silver, kind of like in his relatively early days when he had his
Yeah.
old, and that started to kind of make even more sense in regards to, obviously, we have a slightly different outlook to silver and gold than the US does,
Yeah.
and that kind of made more sense to me, being that I'm in Europe and obviously um, mainly UK uh, based. So it kind of just went from there. So 365 was a big part of me getting into it. So I started looking to buy my first few pieces. I found a bullion dealer in Cyprus that kind of brings a few bits over here, but still my main the where I look to buy most of my stuff is still in the UK. So I'm very much part of the UK community,
Okay.
let's say.
So pre that, that was, would you say that was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so I think
Pre,
early 22.
okay. So pre that, had you got, was you into any type of silver collecting of coins or anything?
Pre that, I've always liked coins. So like when
Okay.
I was young, I used to kind of like I had a box full of coins from just countries around the world, like old circulated currency stuff that was either currently in circulation or old stuff, pre-decimal, some UK stuff. I've always had a liking for coins and stuff. I always kind of saw it as treasure, and being that I've always liked geography and kind of had an interest in travel and countries around the world, kind of coins felt like a way for me to bring the world to me, kind of thing, in regards to currency and how people use currency and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't call myself a coin collector or such. I didn't really look for anything of particularly high value, but
Yeah.
liked collecting coins from countries around the world. And when I then found out that, silver coins and stuff were more attainable than I initially thought they were, I just thought, okay, that's just another aspect of it. But it wasn't until I started getting into the stacking side of things that it really took off for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's normally the way. And so pre all of this,
Mhm.
CY Sterling, I've got to ask you the CY bit, is that short for Cyprus?
It is, yeah.
Cool.
Um, Over here, everything is like similar to how in the UK websites are .co.uk, we have .cy. So it just felt like a an easy kind of reference to Cyprus.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. It's simple and cool, isn't it, really? For sure. Can you still hear me?
Still here.
Oh, that's cool. So let's go back. How long you been in Cyprus for? Have you always been in Cyprus?
Well, my family originally from here, but I
Okay.
was actually raised in London. So growing up, well, I spent my early years in London. Then we moved to Cyprus for a few years in my kind of early teens, and
Okay.
then London in my late teens, where I stayed. And I've been back in Cyprus for almost 9 years now.
Oh, wow.
Moved between Cyprus and the UK a few times in my life, but I think I, London is home for me because I spent most of my formative years there, like my late teens, early 20s kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cyprus has always had a special place in my heart. And everything. I like the lifestyle here. It's more island life, laid back and that kind of thing. So now that I'm a little bit older, I thought, you know what, I quite fancy just living the island life and just being a little bit more laid back.
With your tequila and your cigars.
Yeah, um,
That
this
sounds
is,
like my kind of life.
you know what, it's not bad. It has a few drawbacks, but on the whole, I can't complain. Finish work, come home. It's a nice evening, so I can just have all the windows open and cool breeze coming in. I
Yeah.
can just sit here, a nice drink and a cigar, and just chill out and have a nice conversation with you.
Cool. Sounds like a brilliant idea. Just to give everyone a bit of a concept of what that island Cyprical type lifestyle is, could you just give us a bit of an overview of what it's like? I've never been to Cyprus. It's probably one of the places I'd like to go at some point in my life. But yeah, can you give us a bit of an overview of what it's like?
Yeah, well, we like to think that we're kind of, sorry, let me start that again. Um, Obviously, Cyprus being a small island, uh, quite a small population. I think there's barely 1 million people on the whole island.
Wow.
Uh, so everyone kind of knows everyone. Small communities, especially when you're in some of the more rural areas in the villages and stuff, um, where obviously in the EU now and everything. So a lot of European companies have made Cyprus part of their business. So it's kind of a mix between old school laid back where everyone knows everyone and people kind of take the time to still socialize after work or like take a midday break and go to the beach and really enjoy life. And then we also have like the more modern, how should I put this, kind of European integration and multiculturalism that kind of comes with obviously Cyprus being a tourist destination. We get a lot of influence from other countries, so it's a bit of a mix. Um, but on the whole, like I said, compared to major cities, London being one of them, it's way more laid back. So there isn't the mad rush, and everyone's kind of things get done at a much slower pace. So you have to kind of adjust to that.
Is it has it changed much? How to give us a bit of an idea from the very first time you said you was born in the UK, didn't you? I think. So from the very first time of your memories of Cyprus to today, has it changed much as a rule?
Yeah, I mean, when I used to live here when I was younger, it wasn't as developed. You
Yeah,
know, it was much more how should I try to compare it to kind of similar to the UK. So imagine rural life in the UK in like a small town, a small village,
sure.
countryside where I guess smaller communities, it was much more like everyone knew everybody. So we used to kind of go out and hang out with our friends and ride our bikes around the neighborhood and
Yeah,
stuff like that. All of the all of the parents looked after everybody else's kids when they were, when we used to go around to
yeah,
friends' house. It was much more like, let's say, the old school way of life.
yeah.
Nowadays, things are more developed. Obviously, there's still the sense of community, but on a slightly larger scale. More modern systems have been integrated into society, so it's trying to catch up with like mainland Europe, and
Yeah.
but it's in some ways we're still kind of playing catch up. So
Okay. That's
we're
kind
getting
of
there.
nice though.
Yeah, I mean, we still like to take advantage of, socializing and going out. I mean, everybody finishes work and then instead of just going home and calling it a day, it's like call each other up. What are you up to? Not much. Let's go out for a coffee or a drink, or just go sit at the beach and just enjoy the sunset. So people tend to take advantage of life more.
Yeah, sure.
I
That's
remember living, not that long ago, and it's like you finish work and you're, stuck in rush hour traffic trying to get home, and then by the time you get home you're exhausted and so I just don't want to do anything, so you just crash. Because people here kind of tend to still want to go out and do something after work, so it's like you work to live, rather than live to work.
Yeah. Wow. Long may that continue. You don't hear that very often anymore.
Yeah, it's true, and that's part of it's part of the decision making process of like when we decided to move back.
I bet there's a massive change when you go
It,
hop back to London, because that's London's just a crazy place. Absolute crazy place.
I mean, I try and come over because I've still got the majority of my family still live in London, and
Sure.
I try and visit as often as I can. And like I said, I've got a real soft spot for London because I grew up there. But every time I visit, it just seems busier and more chaotic, and just I don't know if it's me acclimatizing more to Cyprus and the more laid back lifestyle, or if London really is just charging on ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's really funny because whenever I've watched you, I've felt so relaxed listening. You always sound so chilled, so laid back. You know, when you're talking about certain things in your videos, it's like really calm and I just think, wow, is that his personality or is that a true reflection of the environment he lives in? And probably a bit of both, I would have thought, but it's really cool. And now you've explained that, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So it sounds like a really nice place to be.
Yeah, I could definitely recommend it as a holiday destination. You should definitely come and check it out.
Sounds like a plan. And you're going to light that big fat cigar.
Well, like I said, it's of an evening. One of the things I like to do is sit out, have a drink, have a cigar, and I've tried to integrate it into the videos and, like I said, kind of give everyone a sense of my character. And yeah, I mean, I am generally fairly laid back as a personality trait, but being able to do this accentuates that even more.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I think I'm laid back, but not as laid back as you, that's for sure. So fair play. Absolute cheers. So, do you live near a, is it touristy where you are, or is it sort of away from the touristy places, or?
It's not too touristy. Um, Obviously, in Cyprus, you're never too far away from anything. Distances are quite short compared to the UK.
Yeah,
So, within, let's say, within a 10-minute drive, I'm downtown where all the tourist hotspots are. So I get to see the buzz, and being that I work in transport as well, I get to interact with a lot of people from all the countries that come on holiday, and it's always nice to see people coming to visit.
can I ask that horrible question?
Farming.
What's the easiest people to get on with, and what's the worst people to get on with?
Uh,
You don't have to answer it, mate.
it's tricky. I'll tell you why. Um, Sometimes when I'm working on the tourist coaches and I'm at the airport doing uh, an arrival, you're dealing with people while they're still in like travel mode. So
Yeah,
they've just got off a plane, they're getting their luggage, just want to get on the coach and get to their hotel. And I try and greet people and offer some cheer and everything. And people just very often just want to get to their hotel and start their holiday. And then a couple of days later, I'll be doing an excursion and I'll pick up those same people and take them for a drive up in the mountains or to a coast somewhere and whatever. And you see a completely different side to them.
Yeah,
So in my experience, it's not like one particular group of people from a particular country or anything like that. It's just generally when people are on holiday, it's those I see those two sides of them. It's like
sure.
in travel mode, they just want to start their holiday, and then when they're actually on holiday, they're just relaxed and looking forward to experiencing all the things that the island has to offer. So it's more a case of dealing with them when they're in travel mode and when they're actually on holiday mode.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, yeah, especially if you've had a shitty journey trying to get to your holiday destination, and depending
Yeah,
on, yeah, you can feel quite fed up, don't you? You just want to get somewhere and relax, put it all
yeah.
behind you. Yeah, it makes sense. Hell of a lot of sense. And another interesting question, because I don't really get to talk to anyone that's sort of in a holiday destination. Has tourism been good, or is it, with the way times are going, is it starting to sort of get a little backing off a little bit, or is it just as mad as, any other year?
Well, the last couple of years, tourism is getting back to what it was pre lockdowns and all that craziness. So, when I was working in tourism in like 2018, 2019, we were super busy, people coming from all over Europe, all over the world. And then 2020 happened and everything died. So then, even when travel restrictions were lifted, kind of 2021 was still very, very slow. But gradually, year on year, it's picking up again. So we're, I would say, almost back to full swing. We're expecting this year to be really, really busy.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. So, what was it like during, like, living on an island during those COVID times with lockdowns and people restricted on travel, and obviously the island that you live in so relies on, I presume, tourists. Did that have any effect on the island other than obviously lack of money coming in?
Yeah, I mean,
What was life like?
it was really, really weird. I think we had some really strict um, restrictions compared to some other countries in Europe, the UK included, I think. We got locked down, I think, two or three times. Um, and I remember when it all first kind of happened, just before the first lockdowns, we were taking we were taking tourists from the hotels back to the airport so they could get back to their home countries. And some of the big resorts, I was actually one of the last coaches to take passengers and actually saw the managers kind of lock the doors. And then those hotels stayed closed for a year, year and a half before they were able to return back to like being able to receive guests.
Wow.
Like I said, being that Cyprus relied quite heavily on tourism, a lot of places were just ghost towns. There was very, very little going on. So even when we could move around, being that there were no flights coming in, there was no tourism, and like I said, the population in Cyprus is quite small, there just wasn't the buzz that there usually is. So you'd go places that usually are heaving with people and it'd just be empty. So it was surreal. Obviously, it had a huge financial detriment to a lot of businesses. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, we persevered and managed to kind of come through the other side.
Yeah, was there much financial help during those times on the island for you guys?
There was some. I
Yeah,
mean, myself uh, being reliant on tourism, I had no work for close to a year and a half. So the government was, did offer some financial aid to private individuals like me, to businesses, to try and keep them afloat. Um, so we, I think, muddled through.
yeah, it's pretty much like yeah, most people did, but it's fascinating because for for a lot of us, we probably sit there and think, "Oh, what a lovely place to be like isolated for a year and a bit." But I think we have a tendency to, in a lovely island, weather's nice and all that sort of stuff. But I think we forget sometimes that you guys actually live there, and you've got to live there, and you face the same sort of things as anyone else in anywhere else in the world. It's still when someone cuts off your income, it's a worry, isn't it? You've still got to provide or find ways of providing, and yes,
Yeah,
and in those times, no one knew what was going on initially. So yeah, I think that maybe it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If we're all going through the same sort of thing, it all hits home in the same sort of way, doesn't it?
yeah, that's exactly right.
Mm.
It was tough going for a little while, but it gave people opportunity to, especially in Cyprus, like we were able to implement some new procedures and like things that we hadn't really done before.
Yeah,
Uh, Gave us a push to catch up with, let's say, for example, people wouldn't go out to eat anymore. So companies, restaurants, and stuff like that really took advantage of delivery services. So pre-lockdowns and everything, we didn't really have too much of a kind of like Deliveroo or Uber Eats or anything like that. Whereas because restaurants couldn't have people in, on premises, they turned to delivery services, which had just been introduced, and they really took off because of that. So now, post all of that, we have this new um, system in place that we can utilize, and it makes life that little bit easier when you're kind of when you want to have a takeaway, you can get it delivered instead of having to go to a pizza shop or whatever and pick it up yourself. So it's these things where it came out of necessity, but now it's kind of here to stay.
yeah, yeah. Innovation come along.
Yeah.
Pe- People worked it out, and it's probably turned out to be quite a business for a few people, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's become huge. Like I said, now it's just the way it's done now. So people don't go out to pick up their own takeout; they have it delivered. You know. But we still like to go out and actually sit at a restaurant and, like I said, we're more of an outdoorsy people in Cyprus, especially when the weather gets nice. We like to be out.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What's the climate like across the year as a rule?
As a rule, I'd say we have 9 months of pure sunshine.
Mm.
Like now, it's kind of end of March. It's properly spring. We're out in t-shirts and shorts, uh, where temperatures are starting getting up into the mid 20s already. And then come May, June, temperatures really start to ramp up. That's when all the tourist resorts really start to get busy as well. And then that just basically carries all the way through till October when it finally starts to cool down again. And then we have kind of like a 2, 3 months of kind of again back down to mid 20s, autumn weather. And the only time it gets wintry is kind of like January, February kind of time. So, but even then, compared to the UK, for example, it's a cold day in Cyprus is like 10 degrees.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I live down by the coast. If you're up in the mountains, it's different.
Yeah.
Obviously, even though we're a small island, we have quite a high peak in the Trolls Mountains, and there it can kind of drop down to a couple of degrees below zero, get some snowfall. So yeah, you can actually see people going skiing and enjoying the snow. So, but again, that's kind of December, January, February.
Sure. And that sounds really cool. Well, really lovely. Um, so do you get sort of, is the tourist thing sort of all the way across the 12 months? Do you get people coming, out of season type thing, out of those summer months?
Yeah. We have people coming year round.
Yeah.
Um, like the true tourist season starts in March and ends kind of October. But
Okay.
those are the people that come kind of like for the sunshine, for the beaches. But then we have winter holiday makers that do come, let's say, like off season, but you know, people come in the winter time because it's still nicer than nicer weather than in some other countries. Um, I had some friends from Sweden that came for a couple of months over like the winter months, and they were like, it's cheaper for them to come to Cyprus for a couple of months than it is to stay in Sweden and pay like the energy bills for heating and whatever else. So
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah,
And that was going to be my next question, and that's generally for people that live in Cyprus. What's the economic climate like? Is the cost of living fairly reasonable? I mean, it'd be interesting to get your opinion on this because obviously you come back to London and you've got family in London, so you've got a nice comparison. Is it relatively cheap? Although London's not a great example because it's really expensive, but as
it's
a
very
rule, is
expensive.
it? Yeah, is it as a rule? Is it fairly reasonable to live in Cyprus?
Personally, I find it quite reasonable, but that does depend on where you are. Kind of similar to the UK. So, like if you're in London, being London, prices are sky high, property prices, even rentals. So it depends on where you are in Cyprus.
Okay.
You can kind of have a similar issue with regards to property and your housing costs. But on the whole, you can get by on the average salary a lot easier than you can, in my opinion, in the UK. Because I find housing's more reasonable. I find like the general like, grocery spending is more reasonable compared to like the median salary. So, for example, at the moment, as a single individual living on my own on an average salary, I'm able to rent my apartment, buy my groceries, pay my bills, and still have a little bit of a disposable income. Whereas in London, as a single person, if I was there now, making that comparison, I don't think I'd be able to get by
No.
because the cost of living compared to the average salary in London, I think, is a lot higher. So,
Interesting.
in my opinion, it's easier here.
Yeah. And the weather helps.
The weather definitely helps.
Just say it does. Crikey, listening to those temperatures. Oh, that would be so nice. Although it's been quite nice for the past couple of days here in the UK.
I
You
mean,
just getting that feel that maybe we're going to get sort of maybe a little bit more sunshine, and it really sort of perks everybody up. It's lovely.
yeah, the sunshine always makes things better. I was in London just a few weeks ago, and the weather was quite mild. I was able to be out in just a light jacket for the most part. It was lovely. And then after I left, I was told that the temperatures kind of dropped again, and I'm glad I missed it.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference. It yeah, it's funny what the weather does actually. Really has an effect on us emotionally sometimes.
Definitely.
It's
And I think it plays a big part of people's general positivity in Cyprus. Everyone's here, and don't get me wrong, wherever you are in the world, you have ups and downs, good days and bad days, but on the whole, I think people are quite happy here, and I think the weather plays a pretty big part of that.
yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, it must do. It must do. Do you ever get fed up with the tourists? Like at the peak of the seasons? Do you think, oh, I want to escape this? But mind you, this part of your job, isn't it? So
The thing is, it can on occasion get a bit much, but like I said, it's just part of the way of life out here.
yeah,
And personally, I'm a little bit of an introvert, but I like meeting people. I like kind of just interacting with people, showing them around the island. So, being that I get to do that as part of my day-to-day job, I quite enjoy it. I imagine people that say run restaurants or maybe a bit more service orientated might on occasion get a bit fed up with it, but that's a different, they have a different interaction with them.
yeah, I get that. That can, yeah, it's a big difference because you've got like a little bit of escapism because you're out and about. Whereas I suppose if you're just in a restaurant all day, you
Yeah.
haven't really got any escapism from it, have you? To be honest. So I've got a really interesting question because obviously you're dealing with a lot of people from different parts of the world. What's the funniest day you've ever had in your job? Is there anything that sort of really stands out that sort of you thought, oh my God, what was that all about? Or whatever.
That's, you really put me on the spot. I mean,
No, no, no. It's either something that sticks to your mind or not, or doesn't really.
no, there isn't one particular story. I mean, we've had instances where, like, I drive a big 55 seat coach, and we go to these tiny little villages up in the mountains, and sometimes seeing people's faces when we're driving on these mountain roads, and you see people kind of like freaking out, and obviously it's just part of the job to me. We've done it hundreds of times, but someone that might not have experienced it before, they might kind of panic a little bit. And it's kind of like if you're doing something for the first time, even though being that you're not in control, you can kind of have a little freak out. So I have people kind of coming to me at the end of the day, just like thanking me for getting them back safely and for the nice drive and stuff. Yeah,
Brilliant.
it brings a smile to my face. But um, sometimes, as being a small island, sometimes we kind of get wedged in these situations where there's cars parked down narrow streets and we have to try and squeeze through. And again, like the looks on people's faces when we drive in some of these villages, it's just priceless.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And you're a really laid back character. Do you ever get like really, have you had any instances where you thought, oh my God, and, or it's just like water off the duck's back type thing?
I try not to show it, but there have been a couple of occasions where um, we've been up in the mountains during a national holiday. So one of the biggest holidays in Cyprus is the 15th of August. It's peak summer, so tourism is booming, and everyone wants to go on excursion. But then on the 15th of August, everyone has the day off. It's a national holiday, so people are either on the beaches or up in the mountains. So having everyone being up in the mountains and then we're trying to squeeze through these little village roads and everything, you come across situations where it's almost impossible to get through. And there was one instance I had to reverse the bus down this tiny little village road, and it was at a bit of a an incline going backwards. And it's one of those things where inside you're kind of panicking, sweating, but then on the surface you have to try and stay calm so that you're not relaying panic to everybody else in the bus. But yeah,
Well,
we've had a
freak,
couple of,
freaking everybody out.
yeah, yeah, and then kind of like after we passed through, one of the tour guides kind of came up to me and was like, "I don't know how you did that. It just I was truly like I thought we were going over the edge."
Wow.
Like, yeah, like, no big deal kind of thing. But inside, I was thinking,
I want to go home. I
yeah,
can't wait for the
yeah,
day you finish. That builds it's situations like that though that over time you just learn from it, don't you? And I mean, and as long as everyone's okay, it's a really humbling experience to know that okay, yeah, I remember doing this before. I can do this.
yeah. I mean, when I first moved to Cyprus, and I used to drive buses in London,
Oh,
but
really?
then yeah, like double deckers.
All
But
right, okay.
then doing my first excursion, I had no idea where I was going. So the tour guide was like, he's like, I'll direct you. I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. So I had a little bit of confidence that she could kind of tell me where to go along these mountain roads and villages. And then at one point we come to a point, she says, oh, take the next right. So we get to where the next turning on the right was. And I looked at it and I looked at her and I'm like, there's no way we're going down there. It's like, yeah, trust me, we do it every week. This was my first time. And I had zero confidence that the bus was even going to fit to get around the turn, let
Yeah,
alone
yeah.
down this hunt. But then once you've done it a half a dozen times, you kind of build up your confidence. And after that, it's just part of the routine. So yeah, you just learn to go with it.
That's fascinating. I love the way you explain it because I'm almost imagining myself being you driving a. I can't even think what it must be like driving a
Yeah,
coach or bus like that. It's bad enough
those,
driving double deckers around London, Jesus.
those
And
would be
then,
fun.
sorry,
I really enjoyed those.
did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was learning, I was doing my test and everything. Uh, I don't know if you know, they used to do like a skid pan test
Yes.
back, I think back in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I knew about it, and I was really looking forward to doing it. Uh, and then when I found out that they'd stopped doing it several years prior to me doing the test, I was really disappointed because I just imagined being so much fun, just like skidding this double decker bus around.
I
But
should say.
yeah,
So why did they stop doing that then? Oh,
I think they just after a while it just became unnecessary with like modern systems in the buses and traction control, and buses became more stable. So I think they just thought it wasn't necessary anymore.
yeah. So you didn't get to drive the old double
The old
decker
route.
buses.
No, I was hoping to, but unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of my favourite things about being a kid, was standing on that platform at the back.
Yeah, I remember it as well.
Mm. You still see them around every now and then. I think I went to a wedding 2 years ago. They hired one of those old buses,
Oh,
and it was like going down memory lane of 40 years ago. It's really weird. Really weird.
yeah.
The old bus conductor. Yeah, really cool. Really cool. So, dude, that's given us a real good oversight into island life in Cyprus. Is it predominantly English speaking Cyprus, or is there another language or
The primary language is Greek, but
okay.
being, being that Cyprus used to be under British occupation, part of up until the mid 50s, if my
Okay.
history right. So a lot of people kind of grew up with British soldiers all over the island. So English was quite widely spoken. So a lot of people speak English as a second language.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to kind of get by if you, even if you don't speak Greek, if you have English, it's you can quite easily get around.
Okay. So it's sort of Greek based.
Yeah, yeah. Greek is the
Okay.
primary
Okay, cool. Cool. And is there a religious history in Cyprus?
language. It's very religious. Yeah.
Okay.
In regards to that, most people hold religion in quite high regard. So a lot of the big holidays are celebrated quite a lot. So Christmas, obviously being one of them, Easter's the biggest holiday in Cyprus. So yeah, religious holidays are a big thing here.
Interesting. That must be quite nice, and especially if everyone likes to do and celebrate the same sort of thing in the spirit of what it is as well. I just think in that sort of island atmosphere, it's quite nice.
Yeah, because people are quite close knit families and communities. Everyone gets together, especially Easter. Everyone kind of takes the time to spend it with family, and we do like a barbecue, so everyone will get together at a friend or relative's house and have a big gathering to celebrate the holiday. It's not just an excuse to have a day off, but it's actually like in celebration of the spirit of what the holiday is.
That's nice to know. That's really cool to hear that because that really keeps that foundation of the community strong, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's lovely, lovely to hear. So, just before we move on to your what a lot of people like to talk about in our community, and that's your silver and precious metals.
Mhm.
Before you got into, you very briefly at the beginning said about a couple of years ago you started watching, was it Silver Dragons in America, a couple of other places, then started to look at things going on in the UK. Before you did all any of that, had or was you involved personally in, and you don't need to say what, that's entirely up to you. Had you been involved in any type of investment of any description pre finding precious metals?
In short, not really. Um, Prior to discovering this, unfortunately, right. Sorry, let's just skip that for a second. Let me just get my head together, just gather my thoughts. Right, sorry. Um,
Okay, mate.
yeah, no, yeah, sorry. But in short, no, not really. I I did have a small savings account where basically I would put some money aside each month, but then for the most part, I was the primary breadwinner in my household, and basically all my salary went to the mortgage and bills and the kids and whatever else. So I didn't really have much of an opportunity to invest. Obviously I knew about investing in stocks and shares or you know savings bonds and stuff like that, but I never had the disposable income to kind of put into any of those savings or investments.
Yeah.
Uh, and prior to prior to that, when I was younger, again, like I knew that I should have been saving or investing, but being young and stupid, I kind of spent all my money on going out with friends. I was always into cars, so I was always buying and selling cars and modifying them. So all of my spare cash went on that.
Yeah. Sounds about normal.
Yeah, yeah. One
None
of
of us
these
are any
where
different, dude.
it's just as you kind of get older and you think, if I knew then what I know now, but it's better late than never kind of thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, without a doubt. So let's go back to when you first started. What was there any particular reason for you to be looking out for silver dragons that you come across, or was it just out of coincidence? You was on YouTube and the algorithm happened to pop these things your way. How did that work?
Literally like that. I was just watching random videos on YouTube and I just got served up this video by Silver Dragons on silver. And I thought, like, oh, cool, coins. So I just watched the video and he was talking about putting money in a secure asset, basically hedging against inflation and using it as a savings account. And I thought, that sounds. I was at a point in my life where I'd not long got divorced and I was kind of on my own. I thought, what, I need to start thinking about the future now that things have changed because obviously Before that, it was all about the house and the kids and whatever else. And after the divorce, I found myself on my own. So part of my income went towards uh, putting some money away for the kids. But then I thought I need to still do something for myself. And then as I was watching the Silver Dragons video, I thought this sounds like something that I could perhaps get into. Um, and like he said in one of the videos, like even if you buy an ounce of silver a week, it's still kind of putting some money aside, putting some money away. Um, and I thought that sounds like something that I could actually do.
Until you went down the rabbit hole.
The funny thing is, once I went down the rabbit hole and kind of learned a little bit more about it, I thought there's obviously the pure stacking side of it where you're just buying for as close a spot as possible to try and um, put as much money in, buy as much silver for as little as possible. But then I discovered the collectible side of things. And then obviously those things have premiums. But then if you were to come to sell at the right time, you can maybe make back some of that premium. So I thought that still kind of works. But the more I the more I got into it, it kind of changed my outlook on how I spent money day to day. I started seeing things as I can either go out to eat or I can save that money and basically cook something at home or whatever else. And then the money that I've saved from going out, put it into buying some more coins and buying some more silver and saving. Because
Yeah.
I was useless at saving before. So if I had money in my pocket, it would get spent. Whereas now cash still gets spent, but it gets spent on something that retains value and can basically help me out of a jam if I needed to.
Yeah. So getting back to those very early days with the obviously you watched Silver Dragon. How quick was it between starting to watch the videos? You mentioned that you moved to then looking in the UK to see what was going in the UK. In that early process, how quick was it before you thought, oh, God, I'm going to dip my feet in the pond here and start buying some stuff? And what was your initial sort of purchases at the beginning? Did you allow yourself time to learn about things before you started to buy stuff, or did you just sod it, go like I did, go headstrong a little bit early, and then just learn as it went along? What was that part of your journey like?
Well, I think I spent a couple of months. Like once I found backyard bullion, especially
Okay,
um, talking about the UK side of things, I spent a couple of months kind of like watching some of his videos and then finding 365 Days of Silver, future investments. Um, I think your channel caught my eye early on around that time as well. Um, so then I thought, okay, I kind of I want to, like you said, dip my toe in and see what it's all about. But then I found myself a little bit cut off being in Cyprus. There wasn't much information um, on buying silver here in Cyprus. So, being that I had a UK eBay account, I went on and I basically just typed in 1 ounce silver, and it just brought me up a load of results. And my actually, I've got it right here. My first purchase, you like this,
I know.
was this.
I know. I've been looking at that all the way through.
This was the very, very first piece of silver that I bought.
Yeah.
And being that it was on eBay, obviously, a little bit overpriced. So I just kind of thought I'll pull the trigger and buy it and see what I can do. Uh, so then got it sent to my sister in London, and then she forwarded it on to me. It took me about a month to actually get it in hand because the post from the UK to Cyprus takes forever. So I thought that plus the postage costs were quite high. So I thought that, that doesn't make any sense. I'm paying almost double what it should be.
Yeah.
So then I continued to do some research, and I found a bullion dealer here in Cyprus. Now, quite small compared to some of the bullion dealers in the UK, but he had some Britannias, he had some lower premium silver. So I arranged to meet up with him, and I bought a few ounces. And we kind of, I spoke to him at length, and we set a budget, and he was able to supply me, a few ounces a month as an initial starting. But then the more I got into it, I thought, okay, if I buy in the UK, I can have stuff sent to friends and family, and then either when I come to the UK or when they come to Cyprus on holiday, they can bring it to me, or I can come and pick it up to save on the international postage. And that's how I was able to kind of grow my collection by using UK bullion dealers to my advantage.
And who was your primary port of call right at the beginning, UK wise?
UK wise, um, early on, I signed up to the Silver Forum, so I bought a few things off there, so kind of like peer to peer. And then I discovered the Silver Trader. So I bought quite a few bits of Silver Trader. And then as I went on, I found places like Charles and Atkinson's. So it's as you said, like the more involved I got, the more recommendations I got, and then the more research I did, the more I was able to kind of like find stuff um, reasonable prices. But then, as I said, I got into collectibles, so I happened to pick up as one of my first pieces the Queen's Beast 2 ounce completer, and I thought I'll just get the completer. Then I discovered that it was actually a 10 coin series, and then when I was in London, I was in a coin shop in central London somewhere, and he had a couple of Queen's Beast coins, really reasonably priced. So I picked those up. And I thought, well, as I've got those, now I need to get the rest. So I went down the road of, you know, picking up the Queen's Beast series and now the Tudor Beast series, and just one thing led to the other.
Yeah, I'm sure. I remember all your videos. I've actually got them on my other computer screen as you're talking. So I'm sort of following your story through your videos as well. at the same time. It's really, really, and I remember a lot of your early videos and you talking about this. So it's bringing back lots of memories. I'm very going to quickly go back. So when you obviously right at the beginning you bought the Bitcoin, with that was your first silver coin. Is that correct?
The very, very first one.
Very, very first one. Then obviously you found out that getting it back home, was quite difficult. You found a local dealer which you bought some more bits off of. And what were they? Were they just any silver coins, or did you have anything specific in mind in those early days? Was you just trying to get the best deal you could possibly
Um,
get, and you wasn't that sort of overly interested as long as it was silver?
Pretty much. As long as it was silver, reasonably priced, I was trying to get kind of as low premium as possible. But then, as I said, the dealer that I found here, uh, he had the 2 ounce Queen's Beast. He had, if I remember correctly, I bought a couple of Britannias off him. So those were kind of low cost. But then he had some newy DC series, and that kind of took me back to my teenage years when I used to collect comic books. So I thought, you know what, that's pretty cool. And he said to me, you realize these come at like higher premium because there's low mintages and the collectible side of things. And I'm like, okay, but I'm guessing being low mintage and collectible, they'll hopefully grow in value as time goes on. And you've got some do, some don't. So you kind of, I weighed up the pros and cons on spending a little bit more per ounce, but then potentially have it be worth more in the future. So I bought a few collectible bits off him kind of early on.
It's so cool when I get the chance to talk to people about their beginnings, because I relate to it so much. And I find that everyone sort of goes on the same sort of journey. That's roughly, and it I don't know, it brings back that excitement to me again when I think about my own, when I listen to other people's. So it sounds like you've got an introduction. It sounds like you've got, oh yeah, sounds really cool, and you found a, obviously someone to go to in Cyprus, but obviously it was more beneficial to you to use different dealers in the UK because you had a way of getting it back. So when you was using Martin Silver Forum, was you still just collecting anything or buying anything that you'd liked, or was you getting a little bit as you were learning a little bit more? Was you getting a little bit maybe shrewder in your buys? Was you learning more about different coins?
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that part of that little bit of journey.
I mean, early on, it was purely like I just wanted silver bullion, so Britannia's, and then I got a couple of American Silver Eagles off the Silver Forum for a pretty good price. Um, and before I knew it, because I was trying to focus on Britannia's being that again, I was learning about the whole capital gains tax exempt side of things and whatever, but in Cyprus that doesn't apply to us as much as it does in the UK. So I kind of allowed myself to branch out a little bit with the Silver Eagles, and then um, I thought I'd get like a Maypole and a Krugerrand and kind of one of each country's bullion coins. But I had a real liking for the Britannias and the Silver Eagles, and before I knew it, those kind of turned into date runs. So I tried to focus on completing date runs of Britannias and Eagles, but again, learning about trying to buy. your silver at kind of as close to spot as possible. I focused mainly on trying to find good deals on the silver forum. Um, Martin was actually quite helpful in helping me source some of the early Britannias because obviously those had a higher premium than just the later 999 stuff. So yeah, the more I learned, the more I tried to kind of complete the collections, but also keep costs low. And yeah, like before too long, I was able to complete both of those day runs. But in between, whenever I whenever I found a good deal on other coins, I'd also kind of take advantage of those.
I remember when I was trying to complete my Britannia date run, you was trying to do roughly the same thing at a similar time. And I remember us exchanging comments.
Yeah,
And I think I think at some stage I only had a couple to go, and I think you had six, maybe about six to go. And we was exchanging, like, some of them can be a little bit difficult to find. But yeah, I remember you actually completing it and doing. You did a video on them,
yeah.
and I thought fair play because they're a lovely collection to have on the day run. They really are.
I still take them out of their case and have a look at them every now and then. I think really cool to see them from the very beginning. Actually, the only the only the only one that I'm missing now is the
97.
7 proof,
Yeah,
and I'm like the prices on them have gotten to a point now where like I still want one, but I, it's almost I can't bring myself to spend that kind of money on a single coin.
I know it's
I will get
mad. It is mad. It's. I was very fortunate at the time um, to to get the box. I think
mm,
you've probably seen it. I mean, to get the box with the 1 ounce, the half ounce, the quarter, and the tenth proof.
I've seen a couple of those sets on eBay for like £250,
Yeah,
something like that. So yeah, they're really getting up there now.
yeah,
But I'll treat myself to one at some point because there's like I think if I'm going to buy the proof, I'm probably going to get the set as well instead of just buying the single. I think it's nice to have like a complete set from the first issue.
yeah,
But I really liked that you did the because you've got a couple more. You did the Oriental Borders
yeah,
and a couple of the other specials and stuff. So
yeah,
those are really cool.
yeah. It's like when you're looking at the Britannias. Obviously, there's a lot of Privy Mark ones as well. There's so many you can buy, but the date run was really important to me just to get that date run done. And whilst I was looking around, I didn't even realise that they. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was 2006, maybe 2000. I don't know. Trying to think now. There was one year that they only did the half ounce. No, 2011, I believe. They did a
Oh yeah,
half ounce, and that was really cool to get that to sit in the collection. And there's a couple of other bits and pieces. And you sent me a 1/10 ounce, I think, at some point. Sure, you did.
either a tenth or quarter.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
No, a quarter.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Was it a quarter?
one or the other. I can't remember.
Yeah, it might have been a quarter, um, which sits in my little box with my collection. And it was I only I only added the 2025, oh, crikey, a month ago, 3 weeks
Okay.
ago, and I had to dig out the boxes that they were in, the collection was in. And while they were out, it was just so cool looking at them all again. Just seeing them all just sitting there and having a look at the different designs and bits and pieces. I think 2010 is my favourite design.
Ooh, I think my favorite might have to be the 2001.
Yeah. Oh, I
Kind of got
know.
that.
Is that the one with the lion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and the 2001's sort of written in a um, vertical way.
So yeah,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, crikey.
yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
That's what I mean. It's like you said, when I got the 2025 a couple of months ago, kind of like just to open the box to put that one in, but then you kind of while you're there, you find yourself going through and seeing especially the older designs, because obviously all the newer ones have the same design with a few changes in the security features or the backgrounds or whatever. But the older ones where they have all the um, different designs, it's cool to go back and see them every now and then.
100% is. It's the eye candy is just
Yeah,
really cool. Really cool. Really cool. So sorry. So you did your date run on your Britannias, and you did your date run. I didn't know this actually. You did the date run on the Silver Eagles as well,
yeah, that's right.
because that's quite a collection.
Yeah, and with the Eagles, they run from 86, so there was even more of those to get.
Yeah,
But being that they're all the same design, again, there's a few that were kind of like lower mintage, so they commanded a bit more of a premium. But I was actually able to get quite a few of those off members of the Silver Forum. Again, Martin um, supplied me a fair few of them. Uh, Coins and Treasures here in Cyprus, he was able to get me a few of them. So that collection came together quite quickly, actually.
yeah, it's cool. They're a nice coin as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I think
They sit nice in
after
the hand. I don't
yeah,
know what it is, but
because they're a little bit bigger than the Britannia,
yeah,
but feel different in the hand, like you say.
hmm,
They're really nice coins.
yeah, they are really
You,
cool.
I can't remember if you have many eagles.
Me, do I have many?
Yeah, have you?
I've got four, I think.
Okay.
I'm terrible. I've got so many little collections and date ones going.
Yeah.
Um, I've often thought because I've got a source probably to almost complete if I wanted to, but it's really costly to do. But it was, I think, with the Eagles because it was a bit of a toss up because I'm a mad perf mint crazy lover,
Mm,
and I still haven't got the Kookaburra collection date run. Or just over halfway there. I think I've got 10 more to get, 11 more to get, but they're all the early ones. But I've got, well, I won't talk about too much about me, but I've got obviously the swans, the crikey, the eagles, the wedge-tailed eagles, the kookaburras, and anything dragon-wise from the Perth Mint. And oh, what's the others? I collected, did a video on them a little while ago. I can't even think at the moment. But yeah, I have to be really careful because I can be very I've really reined myself in this past 6, 7 months,
Mm.
not to get too carried away because I still like my collectibles as well, the art stuff, and
Really nice.
everything's getting very expensive now, so you have to be a little bit careful. And for me personally, silver and gold isn't precious metals aren't the only things that I invest in, so it becomes a real big balance. But I've learnt I have to be a bit patient sometimes and balance things off, and be realistic with what I'm trying to achieve. But I hate it though, mate, because I some of the stuff out there is just amazingly gorgeous. And once I start looking around the silver trader and all the dealers and seeing Cobra's auction's the worst.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, not in a bad way. It's wonderful eye candy, and of course we'll get on to talking about the community. A lot more people showing their different stuff, and you see it, and you think, wow, I like my Bitcoin stuff, my crypto stuff, anything crypto related. At some point you have to go, okay, enough's enough.
You have to draw the line somewhere.
Sorry.
You have to draw the line and kind of
Hmm.
rein yourself in, because there's just so much out there, and
Yeah,
I'm exactly the same. It's like I go on different websites, and when you see like the variety of what's out there, you think, oh, I want this, I want that, and like now I've got into copper as well. And the thing that I like copper because it allows me to still pick up a few bits and pieces, different designs and stuff, without having to lay out the cost of silver. So I know they're not a precious metal, and but it's still kind of cool to collect. So it kind of helped me rein in the spending while still being able to pick up cool pieces, if that makes sense.
it makes a lot of sense, mate. And I like my copper bits as well. So that's another thing. It's weird. Anyway, let's get back to you. So we're halfway through your stacking journey. At what point did you think about doing YouTube?
Um, well, in the early days, obviously, I was commenting on, I was watching everyone's videos and commenting using my personal account. But then, as I was noticing kind of like the community growing more and more, I wanted to get more involved and kind of like take part in the whole showcasing of. So I decided to create the CY Sterling account, and I wasn't really planning on doing videos, to begin with. Uh, but then it was just it's actually 365 Days of Silver that gave me that push to kind of like record my first video and get more involved. And I thought it's another way to kind of enjoy the collection and interact with the community. And I'm really glad I did. And I kind of took a little bit of a break from it towards like well, last year was a bit up and down for me. I had a lot going on in my personal life, so I wasn't putting out as much. But the last few months, I've gotten back on it, and I'm really enjoying it. So I love the interaction with the community. So that's been a real motivator.
Definitely. I'm really pleased you're back doing stuff because I really enjoy what you do. I love you. your laid back way of presenting your videos. It's really appealing. It's nice and calm, and it's so nice to see you in all the different, you know, chat rooms and bits and pieces. Because it, yeah, it's really cool. I what I'm trying to say is probably it's very easy to just move away from certain things.
Mm.
So it's always cool to have people around, you know, from the early days of my journey that are still there and you're still relatable and you've sort of built up a bit of a relationship with. So that gives each other encouragement to carry on as well, more than
Yeah,
anything.
that's exactly it. And
Yeah,
like I said, I mean, personally, character-wise, as I said earlier, I'm a little bit of an introvert. So being that having the channel as a kind of a persona,
yeah,
it allows me to kind of step out of my shell a little bit and kind of like, be a part of the community and interact with people. And as the community is growing and more channels have been coming up, and it's just really nice to be able to comment on each other's videos, and especially now with the Stacker Social Discord and
yeah,
being able to be a part of a group of people that enjoy the same hobby. I
yeah,
mean, I've been in other hobbies previously, um, but never really felt a part of it because, like, coming in as an outsider, sometimes it's hard to kind of integrate yourself. But with this community, I found that it's just so welcoming and it's so easy to talk with people, and everyone's so supportive. It's been amazing.
yeah. It's a bit special. It's a bit special, and long may it continue. I've got a really interesting question for you because I noticed during your videos, every now and then you would talk more about other type of coins, currency coins. Is it numismatic coins?
Yeah.
And I was really blown away by your knowledge on a lot of what you was talking about. So when did that come in?
Um. Like I said, I've always liked learning about like cultures around the world and different countries. I like to travel, and with getting into silver and then discovering that a lot of countries had silver coins as currency, like back in the day, it just kind of gave me another aspect, uh, something else to collect. And with me, it's kind of like once I get into something, I like to learn and kind of research. So the knowledge came in as kind of like part of that side of the journey. So the more I kind of looked at different coins from different countries, I just wanted to learn about the history. I wanted to learn about the coins themselves, like how much silver is in them, what they were like. Some of them are commemoratives, or some of them were used in different interesting periods in history. So, I mean, for example, one of the another date one that I'm closing in on uh, is the Morgan dollars and the peace dollars. So I found it really fascinating that like, Morgan dollars were around like, in the Old West, and again, that being a really interesting part of U.S. history, what growing up watching westerns and cowboys and whatever else, and thinking this is the currency they used at that time in history. I just found it so fascinating and really, really cool. So it kind of gave me something else to collect and learn about and get involved with.
Was that during your journey over the last, well, it's only been a couple of years, isn't it, that you've started
Yeah,
to do that? Well, that's amazing, dude, because when you first started talking about it, I'm not a great follower of those sort of coins and bits and pieces. I'm slowly getting in a bit of an interest into to currency coins and bits and pieces. But when I first started hearing you talking about it, I thought, oh my God, this guy's been doing this for years. It was that like pro, and that really surprises me that you've only just started looking into that sort of stuff recently. Because it
yeah.
really felt like you've been doing it for years and years and years and years and years, and maybe silver was just like this add-on a thing that come into your life. So fair
That's
play.
kind of like the other way around. So I started with, as I had a box full of just general world coins, and it just kind of sat there. I didn't really do much with it. Just whenever somebody would go on holiday, or if I'd go on holiday, they'd bring me back some coins, and I'd just put them in the box. But then once I started getting into silver and collecting, I dug all of those out and kind of separated them into all the different countries. And I thought, you know what, it'd be really, really cool if I could get at least one coin from every country around the world. And then when I got into silver and learned, okay, there's also silver coins now. When I was looking at the basic coins, I thought, okay, silver coins are going to be really, really expensive. But then I discovered that they were actually much more attainable than I originally thought. And then some of them, like the Morgan dollars, some of the US currency, some of the UK currency, have quite a high silver content. I thought, okay, that's another aspect of silver investing, silver collecting. So that's kind of how it came in.
Okay,
Um, but then the more I looked at it, I, I kind of learned that I'm not buying them for the silver content. I'm buying them for the collectability, for the numismatic side of things.
yeah,
And then the history came in because I wanted to learn more about them, and it just another rabbit hole I went down, and it just really fascinating. Um, but I feel like I'm still learning so much. To hear you say like it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. It's actually quite a compliment. Thank you. I still feel like a complete novice.
not at all. As I say, I really did think you was into all that older coinage with history more than you was with your silver. That's the way it come across, and I legitimately thought that you've been doing that for a long time, and the silver come along later. So that surprised me a lot. So I wanted to ask that question. Fair play.
Thanks.
Shows your dedication to it. So obviously you did your date runs, got interested in history with your coins. That took you down another rabbit hole. How have you had any interest in what I would call? I know you've done a couple of videos on the libertads.
Oh yeah, that's quite recent.
Yeah. Have
Uh,
they sort of pricked your ear to go start looking at another date run or?
um, Not a date run. Again, with the Libertads, it was one of those things where like early on, I just wanted to get one silver bullion coin from like all the big countries. So obviously Britannia, US Eagles, I got a Krugerrand, and again I saw a video by 365 Days of Silver. And I thought, oh, Libertads. He was talking about Libertads. I'm like, yeah, I'd like to get one for the collection. So as it happened, I was on the Silver Forum, and someone was selling some Libertads, and I just picked one up. Just chose one at random and put it in my collection. Now, in 365's initial video, he was showcasing the design, and they had this really cool lettering around the edge of the coin. I thought that's really nice. I'd like to have one. But when I got the one that I ordered, it had a different edge.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe it's just a variation, but at least I've got one Libertad. It goes in the collection. Let's get that. But then, as I've progressed through my journey and I've learned more, and I thought, you know what, I really wanted a Libertad with the edge lettering. So I started doing some research, like how come the one I've got is different, and it's that kind of intrigue and that curiosity to find out, or about the variations in the coins, that I discovered that there's all these different types. So I did a trade with 365 and got the one with the edge lettering that I wanted from the very beginning. But being that I enjoy collecting different things, and now that some of the other collections and date runs are coming to completion, I thought maybe at some point I'd like to get one of each type of Libertads. So I'm not going to do a date run. I'm just going to get like I think there's four main types from the research that I've done. So I'd like to get one of each. So I've got a type one and I've got a type four, which is the more like the current one. I just need to get a type two, which happens to be the one that I traded to 365. So I need to get another one of those. And then a type three, which is the larger diameter, similar to the current one, but with a different reverse.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's I didn't even know that myself personally, but then I've never really looked too
That's the thing.
deeply. They're a lovely design, has to be said.
Beautiful coins. I mean, um, I remember you did a couple of videos on Libertads a while back, and there's all the proofs and all the different finishes and stuff like that, and I thought they're just so nice. But I didn't really want to get into that side of collecting them. But then when I discovered that the basic bullion versions have a few variations, and then looking at the prices, they're actually fairly reasonable
Yeah,
compared to some foods and some of the more collectibles. So that's something that I'm going to look at picking up soonish.
yeah, another rabbit hole, as we do.
As we
So,
do.
have you had any interest in the relief coins, the collectible high relief, antique, that sort of range, or are you more your bullion style collector
I'm
stacker?
I'm trying to stay more on the bullion. I mean, I've seen some of the really nice like stackables and the high relief stuff, and like more recently the what are they called? Like the angelic weapons and the
Yeah,
swords and all of them. They're gorgeous,
yeah,
but I think for the time being, there's still quite a few things that I want to pick up in just basic bullion. So uh, I'm staying disciplined and like obviously I'm buying a few things that are a little bit higher premium, but not quite to that to that scale.
Yeah, it's getting quite a costly thing, costly business now. Now with precious metals seemingly to be moving up in price.
Yeah,
And as you said, and as we've mentioned it quite a few times, there is so much out there now
it really is.
that is just incredible, absolutely incredible. Um, I can't believe how long we've been on. We've been on it just over an hour and a half already. It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is.
That's gone really quickly. So that sort of brings us up to date-ish on your journey. What you got? What you thinking about doing? You got anything in your mind going forward? How you gonna, especially with precious metals, obviously more expensive now, and I have no idea where that's going at the moment. Have you got any plans going forward? Is just going to see how it goes and just take your time and be patient?
I think for the time being, I really want to focus on like I've got obviously the Britannia and equal date runs where I just pick up one a year to keep the date run going. I've got a couple of other series that I'm doing the same. The person in Dragon Ball being one of them, stuff like that. But I think for the time being, I want to pick up a little bit more gold.
Okay.
Um, it's always been kind of like in the back of my mind, like I need to diversify you know, the portfolio a little bit and kind of get a little bit of gold. So I picked up a couple of 1 gram bars recently. Um, I actually pulled the trigger and bought one of the new 5 gram Queen's Beef bars, but that should be coming soon. That's probably the biggest um, chunk of money I've put into gold. So maybe I want to pick up a few sovereigns stuff like that. But I think for the time being, it's just a case of staying the course as is and just
It's all
picking
getting
up stuff
very, yeah, it's all getting very flipping expensive as well. It's
that it is.
um, it's this last 12 months. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
scary, really, to be fair.
gold. Yeah, I've been seeing the price of gold kind of like climb and climb. So I thought I need to pick up a few bits and pieces now before it gets even more ridiculous. Um, I think I've there's a couple of specific sovereigns that I'd really like to get my hands on um, before the prices get any higher. So that's kind of also part of my goal for this year. But then after that, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's sort of a little bit of a no man's land at the moment, isn't it? 'Cause I don't think any of us really know what's going to happen going forward. Um, it's, yeah, it's a very interesting time. We all seem to be going through. It's very different to when I first started, anyway. Very, very different.
Yes,
But the community is growing, and there seems to be a lot of interest in precious metals still. Actually, it seems to be more now than even like 2 or 3 years ago. It's I don't know whether people are more conscious of their futures, what they're doing with their money. I don't know. I don't really know.
possibly. Yeah. I mean,
Interesting.
if I look at my own situation, it's like you said, taking more of an interest in your financial future and kind of trying to secure it as best you can, and people coming to the realization that precious metals a fairly safe way to go. I mean, at least for me, that's how I see it. Um, but I also think that with I'll go back to the Stacker Social and the founders there, 365, Stack Collector, Sai, and a few other members, like bringing more and more people together. It might also be a case of there are people that were already into stacking, but now we're just more aware of each other. So the community's grown. So like all of a sudden, where a few years ago it seemed like there's only a handful of people, at least openly, talking about stacking and collecting. Now with more creators on YouTube, the Discord channel bringing the community closer together, there just seems to be more of us. But it might just be a case of now we have a place to actually gather and talk and exchange ideas and showing what we've got and talking about what else is coming up. So it could be a combination of those two.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually, to be fair. Um, Whereas it's not, you don't, yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually. For many people, it's not a lonely place anymore. There's an
Exactly.
yeah, it's they've built a medium of community where you don't have to feel that you're on your own. Yeah, I think you really hit a good point there. Didn't look at it like that at all. Yeah, really good point. So
That's
it's
the thing.
sort of
It's like,
bringing more people out the woodwork that were always there.
yeah, but then also for people who are just getting into it, it also gives them a platform to kind of ask questions. And there's such a wealth of information out there. Like if the Stacker Social was around when I first started, I feel like it would have answered a lot more of the questions that I had to kind of really dive in and Google and try and find out for myself. Whereas now it's much more readily available in the community because this platform exists.
Exciting times.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
that's for sure. That's for sure. But I've really enjoyed this.
It's been great.
It's been
I
really late.
can't,
Sorry?
can't believe how the time's flown. It's been great.
Oh, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Um, what are you going to do with your channel going forward? It'll be same or same. You got any ideas? Got anything up your sleeve?
Not really got much up my sleeve. I think it's more a case of just trying to stay consistent. And I mentioned like for 2025, I wanted to try and post at least one video a week, and I've been able to do that pretty much for the most part. I think I've only missed like 1 or 2 weeks here and there. Um, and it's just a case of I just want to try and talk more about what I've learned and how my outlook has developed and stuff like that. So it's just a case of trying to make more informative videos, not just pick up videos. It's like yeah, those are still going to be around, just to showcase so that just to share what I've got picked up with the community, but also maybe try and give um, some insight, like what I've learned in the last couple of years, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It, it, I think that's probably one of the more important things, really, to share those things. Um, it can be very. I get a little bit stuck sometimes. I probably put myself under. I don't know about you. I put myself under a little bit of pressure. About you have I have a tendency to think I need to show someone something new that's shiny, and I went through a stage like that, and now I'm beginning to go. No, I just want to talk about me, my journey, my observations of my journey. Obviously, the odd pickups here and there. It's become less important for me now. It's more about the journey and the community and the observations I see around it. That's the way. That's why I'm really pleased that I've started to pick up my podcast and doing these sort of chats more than anything. It's just more. It's more about the people with the interest of the shiny into it as well.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying a lot of the chat that you've been doing, and that's kind of also given me like the push to kind of try and change up a little bit. Like I said, not just doing pickup. I mean, those are nice and they're great to do, but also even though I still feel like I'm still learning, I'm still relatively early in my journey, but even as a beginner, like things that I've learned so far, mistakes that I've made, if I can put it out there and it helps somebody else not make those same mistakes or kind of maybe give somebody an additional point of view, something that they might not have thought of before, I think uh, it could be helpful to anyone else that might watch that video.
Percent helpful. And if it comes across in a really authentic way, that makes it even more relatable as well, for sure. Um, yeah, I should definitely look forward to that, buddy. I love what you do. I really do, and I've loved this conversation. And I definitely would love a part two at some
I
point,
think, yeah,
if that's okay with you.
100%. It's been, like I said, it's been a really, really great chat. I can't believe it's been
Nearly
an
two
hour and a
hours.
half,
It's
nearly
getting on.
2 hours.
It's nearly 2 hours. Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
started just about 10 to 7, something like that. It's now 10 to 9 here, almost. Well, it's quarter
yeah,
to
it's
nine.
been
Quarter to nine.
quarter
Yeah,
to 11 here. Yeah,
soon goes.
it really does.
It's always a good sign that yeah, we're in the zone really when it goes that quick. So let everyone know, dude. Where can we find you? You've nearly finished your cigar, so but you haven't finished your drink. You're so disciplined. I'm terrible, as you probably see on my Whiskey Wednesdays. Absolutely
Yeah,
terrible with it.
I'm trying to take it easy because I've got an early start tomorrow, so not being too heavy on it. But
Yeah. Yeah, where
no,
can
like I
people find you, dude?
mainly on YouTube, CY Sterling. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram. I haven't been uploading as much on those two platforms, but I intend to try and do a little bit more. So those are the main uh, places where you can find me. And
Hmm.
obviously, people can get in touch if they want to on Stacker Social.
Yeah, that's becoming an ever increasing point of contact for a lot of people now, which is fantastic. Dude, thank you so much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for your time. I know you're 2 hours in front of us here in the UK. So yeah, it's quite late over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up to the quarter to 11 now. But
Wow.
like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a really, really great chat, and I'll definitely be up for a part two.
Oh, 100, yeah, definitely. It's now I've got a little bit more time, and I just enjoy doing this. I find it really interesting and lovely, and just to have one-on-one chats with people about their journeys and sharing that information. And maybe once, in part twos, we can talk more about, what we're both doing and bits and pieces and build that up over time, really, to be fair. Be really good. Thank you so much. Stay on the line, dude. That's C.Y. Sterling, my first Creator 2025 podcast interview as such, chat. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Go check him out. You won't be disappointed. Brilliant. And I will say, before I do go, mate, and I've thoroughly enjoyed your How to Smoke a Cigar video.
I've actually been thinking of doing a couple of follow-up videos on that as well.
Oh,
So
you've got to. You've got to, dude. I shall well look forward to that. That was that was just so cool. I actually had a whiskey while I was watching it, so I really enjoyed it. Thanks, buddy. You take good care. Stay on the line, and I'll speak to you in a second.